Everyone, welcome to this session. So let's create a weather app. Okay, so to get the weather information, I'm going to use this particular website. It is called openweathermap.org. Okay, so you can create an account here and you don't have to pay anything. All right, so you can create APIs from here and then you can use it for few API calls. Okay, and it will work. So don't worry. So let's just get started and then I'll tell you what are the steps that you need to do. All right, so here I've created a folder weather app and then I've created these three files: HTML, JavaScript, and CSS file. Alright, so let's just start with the HTML file first. So here I'll take the boilerplate code and let's give a title. Here I'm first going to create a div for the container. Inside this div, let's just create a heading and let's just call it weather app. Let me refresh this once. Alright, let's create another div for search container. I'm just giving it a name as search container. And then inside this div, I'll create an input box. Let's just keep the type as text itself and then we'll give it an ID, city input, and then let's just give it a placeholder and then I'll type in enter city. Okay, and let's just save this. So here we have the input box to enter the city. All right, and after this let's just add a button to search. So here I'll add a button and let's just type in search and let's just give this button an ID. So I'll give an ID search button. All right, so we have the search button now. Then after this let's just create another div to display the weather information, right? So let's just create a container first, weather info, and let's also give this an ID, weather info, and then inside this div we'll display few information. Okay, so for example we'll first display the city name. So I'll take an h2 tag and here I'll give an ID to this because we need to style all of this later on, right? So that is why I'm just giving the ID of city name, and we don't need it because we are going to display the information dynamically, right? So this would be the city name, and then we want to display the icon, right? The depending on what is the weather information. If I enter a city, let's say London, right, and if it is cloudy, then I want to the information that I would be fetching from that website, right, weather info website, it will also give me the icon image, as in the information based on the information that it has, right, the weather has, it will give a particular icon image. So that is what I want to display here. So I'll include an image tag and let's give it an ID, weather icon, and here I'll just give it a name as weather icon. All right, and then what else do we need to display? We'll display temperature, description, humidity, and wind. Okay, that's it. So we'll take a p tag and we are going to give this also an ID, temperature, and then let me copy this, and then we need one for description, humidity, and wind. Okay, so here I want to display description and then we'll take humidity, and then here let's just take wind speed. All right, so this is all we need in the HTML file right now. Now let's just link our CSS file and also the JavaScript file here. So link file.css, and then I'll move down, and here I'm going to include the script file. Okay, so script, and here source script.js. All right, now let's go to the style file and then style it a little bit. Okay, after that we would have to style it again because after we receive the information, based on how we are receiving the information and how the display is coming in, we will style it again. Okay, so but let's just provide the basic styling. So I'll move to the CSS file and let's first give some styling to the body tag. Okay, here I'll give a font family, doesn't have this one, so let me just take Arial itself, it's fine. I'll give a background, and in the background I want to give the linear gradient. Okay, so this basically shows a shade of two colors. Okay, so that's what I'm giving, and I will use degrees. Okay, so 135 degree, and then I'm going to use a color code. So this is the background color that I'm using. All right, and then here let's just give a margin as 0, and then we'll give a padding. So everything we are basically setting to 0. Okay, so this, and then I'll use the display as flex. We'll use justify content center, and then align items center. I'll save this, and then we'll also give a height. Okay, so height from the viewport, let's just take this, and let's also give the text a color. Okay, so here I'm just going to use white. All right, so this is fine for now. Now let's just style something else as well. So we can style this also, right, this div. So let's just take this weather app, go here, I'll give a background. Right now we are able to see the div. Right now we can style the div. So let's just give a border radius first. I'll give it as 25 pixel. Okay, now we'll give some padding. Okay, so let's just give a padding of 30 pixel. Now there's space, and then text align center. Okay, so this, and then width, we'll give a width as in 360 pixel. This should be okay, and then let's also give a color. Right, and then we'll also give a border to this, so 1 pixel, and then solid, and we can also give like a color. So this is fine, and there is one more property in CSS that we can use. So there's something called backdrop filter. Okay, so I'm gonna use this and blur, and I'll give it as 12 pixel, and let me save this. Okay, so I mean this created a little bit of difference, but it's okay, it's fine. What else? We can also give a box shadow. So box shadow, and then 0, 12 pixel, 35 pixel, and here I'll give it as 0. This one also I'll give it as 0. This also as 0, and this one as 0.5. So I mean to create the box shadow, right? So you can see the shadow here. Alright, so okay, this much is fine. I think we can leave it here. Now we can style other tags as well. So let's say like h1 tag, although it looks okay to me, but let me just give like some basic styling. So I'll give margin top, and then we can give it as 20 pixel. Okay, I mean it's almost the same. And then font size, we'll change the font size to let's say 34 pixel, and then let's just give font weight as bold. Let me save this. Okay, and then let's just change the color. This is fine. This was already white, so it was okay. And we can also create like something like text shadow. Okay, so text shadow 4 pixel, 4 pixel, 4 pixel, 0, 0, 0, 0.3. So you can see that this text has a shadow in the background, right? Now let's style this one, the search container. Okay, so I'll take the ID from here. This is the search container. So let's just take this, and here dot search container. Here we can just leave the display as flex, and I'm not going to spend much time on this. So margin bottom, let's just give it like 20 pixel, and I think this is fine. We can just now, but the input box we have to still style, right? So let's just take the ID for the input box. This is the ID, right? City input. So I'll take this, and here let's give flex as 1, and then padding as 12 pixel, and then okay, this looks better now. We'll also give a border radius. Let's make it as 5 pixel, and then 5 pixel, and save this. We'll make the outline as none. Okay, and then we'll change the font size for 16 pixel. Okay, let's also give a different background here, and I'll use a different color. We'll make it white. We'll change the border to 1 pixel solid, and this. Let's also style this search button a bit. Okay, so I'll go here, and this is the ID for the search button. Let's take this search button here. Let's just give it a padding first. Okay, so 12 pixel, 20 pixel, and then I'll make the border as none. We'll take background, and I'm again going to give a linear gradient here. So 135 degrees, change the color of the text, right? And then we'll also give a border radius to let's say 5 pixel. Okay, this is fine. And then cursor, let's make it quantum. And then we'll also change the font size. Let's make it 16 pixel, and I'll add a transition as well here. So transform, and then I'll change the background color. Okay, so background color here 0.3 seconds, and let me save this. All right, okay, so this looks okay. And let's also, I mean, you can do a lot of things, right, with styling. Like for example, if I hover onto this, we can change the color of this button as well, right? So let's just do that as well really quick. So here hover and change the background. Here also I'm going to use linear gradient, and we can transform it as well. We will give it a scale of 1. Save this. Okay, so now here you can see it's popping out, and also the scale is changing, right, for this button, if you see, right? So this is fine. I mean, these kind of styles you can give, right? And then in the weather info, let's first I think we should proceed with the JavaScript part, and once we have the information we can style this part as well. Okay, so let's just leave it here, and I'll move to the JavaScript. So first of all, you should because we are going to fetch the information from this website, right? Open weather website. So the first thing that you need to do is sign up to this website. Okay, after you sign up, you can go to your account, and you will find something as my API keys. Okay, and under your my API keys, do not use my API keys, because I have only limited API calls, and I'm not sure if it is going to work for you or not. So you generate your own key. It's free. Okay, so you can generate your own key, and you will get the API. All right, and after you get the API key, you need to go click on this option of API key, and when you'll scroll down, right, you will see something like this, current weather data, and then go to the API doc for this. And here there are different APIs that are there. You can use any of them, whichever you want. But for example, in my case, right, the one that I'm doing here, right, I just want to pass the city name, and based on the city name I want to fetch the value. So based on city name and API key, I will have it right from here itself. So here there is the API for the city name. So for example, this one. So here if you see, we just need to pass the city name and the API key, and then we'll be able to fetch the data. Okay, so this is what we are going to use. All right, so let's just start with the JavaScript first. Let me open this again. So here, when I'll enter the city name, on the click of the button, I want to fetch the data, right? So we need to add an event listener on this button. And to add the event listener, first we need to get the button reference from the HTML, right? So here we can start something like this, document.getElement by ID. And what is the ID of the button? So this is the search button. Let's take the ID and I'll pass the ID here. And here itself, we'll add event listener. And when somebody clicks on this, right? So the event is going to be click. So on click, we are going to execute a function. And here, what do we need? We need the city name, right? So whatever user enters on when somebody clicks on this, we need the value of this input box, right? Whatever is being entered. So let's receive that as well. So const city, and this is going to be the city name, right? So is equals to document.getElement by ID. And what's the ID of this input box? It's this, right? City input. So let's just take this. We'll go here and then dot value. Okay. So we'll have the value whatever is being entered here. All right. So once we have the value, so if user has entered the city name, right? If there is a value, then we will call another function. We will implement this. Okay. Here. So let's just name it as fetch weather. Okay. Fetch weather, and we'll pass the city. Okay. City value from here. So city, and then in else part we can just show a message and we'll show an alert saying please enter the city name. Please enter a city name. Okay. So this is fine. And then now let's implement this function. Okay. Fetch weather. And in this, if you remember any of the previous sessions where we discussed async await, right? That is what we are going to use here, because before we use the data to get displayed here, we need to make sure that the data has already been fetched from that external API, right? So that is why we are going to first, let me first write the function. Okay. So function, and this is the function. And here, what am I getting from here? City name, right? So I'll take the parameter, city parameter. And here, first of all, there are two things that I need to mention. So API key and the URL. Okay. So const and API key. Here, I'll just mention my API key. So I'll go here and I'm not sure which one is working, but I'll just take one right now. So this is my API key. All right. Okay. And then we also need to mention the URL, right? So here, and you need to mention the URL using backtick. Okay. So here, the URL would be this one. Okay. So let's just copy this and we'll go back to this. So if you see here, right, we are appending two things here, city name and the API key. Now, what is the variable that I've created for the API key? It's this, right? I'm going to type that variable here. Okay. So whatever the API key is there, it will get passed here. And where are we getting the city name? We are getting the city name from here, right? From here. So here, let's go here, remove this, and let's pass the city name. Okay. So now we have the URL. Okay. And in the URL, we are passing the city name and also the API key, right? And also, if you want to check the data, right? What is the data which is coming in? Let me copy this once and I'll show you. So here, if I go here and let me type this, okay? And here, let's pass a city name, okay? I'm passing the city name as, let's say, London, and I will pass the API key as well. So this is the API key. And here, if I pass the API key and enter here, right? So see, this is how we are getting the data. So if I copy this and I will format this, okay, using this website, and if I click on validate JSON, here you see for London, we are getting this information back from this website, open.org, right? And if you see here the structure, right, it has different nodes. So under weather, they have description of the weather, right? Overcast clouds, and they also have the icon code here. See, because we will be needing the image, right? So we will get the description and icon from weather node, and then from the main, we can get the temperature, of course, right? And also the humidity. And then we also needed wind speed, right? So this is the under different node we have wind. So you understand, right, that the information that we want to display is available onto this URL, but the structure, the way it has been structured, you need to keep in mind, right? That because when you'll try to fetch the data, after fetching the data, you need to access it correctly. Otherwise, information will not get displayed. Okay. So you need to take the description from weather node. You need to take the temperature from main node. You need to take that speed from wind node. Okay. So this is how the data will be coming. But the URL is working perfectly fine. Okay. So this is the API key. This is the URL. So this all looks okay. Now let's proceed and let me hide this a little bit. Okay. We don't need to see the whole screen right now. All right. So now we are going to use a method that JavaScript has, which is called fetch method. Okay. So if you are calling a third party URL or something like that, right, you can use the fetch method. So here, so first of all, we'll write everything in the try catch block. Okay. So if there is any error, we can get the error as well. So error, and then here we'll implement this later on. Okay. So under try block, what I'm going to do is const, and I will have to receive the response as well, right? So now we have the fetch method. Okay. And in fetch method, you need to pass the URL. This is a standard method, okay, fetch method. Now, as I was talking about async await, right? We want to use the data which is coming back from this URL. So we need to make sure that we have the data and then only we are calling this function and using it, right? So to make sure that it is happening in the sequence, we are going to use async await. So async, and then here we will use await, okay? So it will wait for this to get resolved and then only it will proceed to the next step. All right, so now once we have the response, we can add some conditions. So let's say if response is not okay, right? If there's something else in the response, we are just going to throw an error, throw new error. If you remember how to create your own error, we'll give a error as city not found. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll use the data, okay? So we are going to receive the response, right? So const, and then we'll take another variable data, and then we have response, correct? So response dot will take the information in JSON, right? And then we will call another function, okay? So let's just name it as display weather, and then we'll pass the data inside this function, okay? So this is the function that we'll be writing right now, but we are passing this data, right? Whatever is coming in the JSON format, we are passing this data to this function, okay? And in the catch error part, let's just only show an alert here, okay? So alert here, error dot message, right? So this is okay. So this function is done. Now let's just go ahead and implement this one. So here, let's define the function, and then here we are getting the data, right? So now we can take out all the information that we are getting from the data. So first of all, let's create a variable, and I will name it as weather info, okay? And if you remember the block that we have created here, right, in the HTML, what is the ID of that block? That is also weather info, right? This. So let's just take, because we want to set all the data into this block, right? The block that we will display here. So I'm going to take the ID of this div because I want all the information to be displayed inside this div. So I'm going to take this div. I'll go back to the JavaScript file, and here document.getElement by ID. This is my div. All right. So now inside this div, I want to display everything. Okay. And if I go back to the HTML file, I have created placeholders for all the information. So for example, city name, right? So in city name, let's just first take this element. So document.getElement by ID. I'll take the city name dot text content, right? What do we need to set here? So now we need to take the information from the data. So data and then dot, okay? Now let's just go back to the response that we were seeing here, right? So here, if you see, let's see what we can display. Where do we have the city name? So here is the name, and the name is not inside any additional node, right? So we can directly use this. So dot name, and then if I save it, okay, this should be fine. Let me save it. Sorry. So let me save this file, and then similarly, let's set everything else. Okay. So document.getElement by ID, and the next thing that we have is the temperature, right? So I'll take the temperature, or we can also set the image. I think we need to set the image, right? But let's take the temperature first, and then dot text content, and here let's first use backtick so that we can display the text as well. So I'll write temperature, okay, and then here we are going to use template literal. So $sign, and then inside curly braces, so data dot. Now let's see where we have the temperature information. Okay, so temperature information should be available inside it's inside main, right? Main dot m. So we'll go here and we'll write here main dot m. All right, so this should be fine. Now let's do it for the next one. Dot get element by ID. What is the next information that we wanted? We want description, right? So I'll go here and then description dot. Let me just increase this. Okay, so text content, and here again let me take this first. I'll just copy and paste it here, and here we want the description, and let's see where we have the description. So we have the description and inside weather, right? So data dot weather dot description. Okay, so it should be data dot weather dot description. I'll just copy it from here. Okay, so dot description. Okay, so this is fine as well. Now document dot get element by ID. What is the next thing that we need? Let's go back to the HTML, and we need the humidity. All right, so humidity and text content, and then we'll do the same. Let me take this. We'll type in humidity, and let's see where it is available. Okay, so it's under main. Okay, so humidity is under main. So here data dot main dot humidity. Okay, and I'll save this. What else do we need? We need wind speed as well. So let me just copy this line and I'll paste it here. And what is the humidity block that we have? This is the ID, right? So I'll copy the ID. Humidity we already wrote, right? What else do we need? We need the wind speed, sorry, right? So I'll take the wind speed and we'll go here. So wind speed, and let's see where do we have the wind speed. It is under another node, which is wind, right? Here, so wind dot speed. So data dot wind dot speed, and let's just save this. Okay, and also we need the image icon, right? The icon that is coming here. So here, if you see, see they have given us the icon code. So let's just create another variable. So const icon code, and here I will take the icon information from data. It is under weather, right? So let's take weather. So data dot weather, and I'll take the first element, okay, 0 and dot icon, right? So I will have the icon code from here, and after this I have to get the icon URL, okay? So const and then icon URL. I'm just giving a name, all right? And here you just need to pass your icon code. This is something that you can just open in Open Weather Map, and you can see, right, they have all the images over here. You just need to pass the icon code. So our icon code is this. I'm going to pass the icon code. So this is the icon code, and then I will choose a size for the image, okay? So this dot png, all right? So this should be okay. All right, so document dot get element by id. Where do we want to? We want to set it somewhere, right? So I've created a space for weather icon, I believe. Yeah, this one. So we'll take this and go back here. We'll take the id and dot source, right? In image we need to put the source. So dot source is what? Icon URL, right? So I'll copy this and I'll paste it here, and that's it. Now all we have to do is the weather info that we have, right? So we are just going to provide a style to it. So weather info dot style dot display, we will set it to block, okay? And I think that's all we need, okay? I think we can go ahead now and run this to see how is it showing up, okay? So here if I enter a city name, so let's say if I'm entering New York, okay, and if I click on search, city not found, what happened here? Okay, this is because we need to add a dollar sign here as well, right? So dollar city and then dollar API key here, and then let me save this and then let's run this again, okay? So where was it running? Let me run this file again. All right, so here now if I enter a city name, let's say New York, if I click on search, cannot read properties of undefined reading temp. So I think here it is trying to do this before. So here also we need to add await, okay? Because you, so see, these are the things that you need to check carefully, okay? Because it is trying to display before it, like, everything else is done, like, the fetching and then the, like, conversion of the response that we are getting, right? So if I use await here, let's just go back, and I think this is fine. Let's just New York, and now you see we are getting the information. And if I type in, let's say Tokyo, right, and if I click on search, I get the, like, information. So you see temperature, humidity, description, wind speed, and also the image icon, right? The weather icon is also coming up here. All right, so we can now style it a bit more if you want. I mean it's fine, looks fine to me, but we can style it a bit more, okay? So let me just first of all drag this to the screen. Here we can I think weather info we haven't styled, right? So let's just style the weather info. So I'll take this div, I'll go back to the style weather info, and here we'll use a background, and inside this, and then we'll give a padding around 15 pixel. If I save this, you see this is changing, right? So we are just styling it a bit more. So okay, so we have given the padding. Now let's just give a border radius, and I'll give it as 15 pixel, and I'll save this. So see the corners are smooth now. And then what more? Text align, we can align the text in center. It always look, I mean it already looks centered to me, but yeah, okay. And then we can give this box a shadow as well, right? So box shadow, and here 0, or you need to give the offset as well, okay? The radius and the offset. So RGBA here, and then let's just save this. Okay, so now there's a shadow. All right, so I think, and like, you can style it more. You can style all these tags as well. So for example, in weather info, whatever we have under P tag, right, we can style that as well. So weather info, and if you want to style these, right, so what I can do is we can set the margin as, let's say, 8 pixel 0. I'll set this, and then what else can we do here? We can change the font size. I'll give it as 18 pixel, okay? And then let's just change the font weight to maybe 500. We can also give like a line height, okay, so that there's a space between the lines. So I'll give it as 1.6 maybe. Yeah, so there's a space between every line now. And then we can, like, the icon looks okay to me. I don't think that if you want, you can do that. And also the city name, right? You can target each an element and style them, like, the more you want. I think the main thing that you need to keep in mind is the JavaScript, okay? So all we have done here is, we know that we have to use the fetch method of JavaScript to fetch the data. All right, so you need to sign up here, or you can use any other free websites as well, right, where you can get the live weather info. But I've been using this one, so I'm recommending this one itself, right? So sign up and generate an API key. So you will have the API key and the URL. All right, so once you have your API key and URL, you are good to go. So the next thing that you have to do is, that on, like, when you enter the city name, you click on the search button. On that, you need to receive the input value, right, the city name that user has entered. And if there is a city name, then call this method, right? Now inside this method, fetch weather method, we are using two more methods, right? We are using fetch method and we are also using this one, right? We are transforming the response to JSON, correct? So for both of them, we are using async and await, right? So this is what it does, right? Async and await makes sure that whatever your execution is happening, so this should get done first and then only should go to the next line or next execution part, right? So this waits for the function to get resolved, right? So that is why here we need to use async and await, and we are using two functions. So we are fetching the data and then we are transforming the response and we are receiving it in the data, right? And then from the data we are fetching all this information and we are setting it to the weather info div block that we have created in the HTML. Okay, and that's it. That's about it. Okay, I hope at least you got the idea how to get started with it, and I think you should try it on your own, and I'll also provide the source code in the description link so that you can try it. So that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.